If this woman gets into the presidency, it will be awful. It's all by design. They create moral and social decay to facilitate the coming of a new world order.
Republicans are trying to frame her as this deep leftist. She's a former prosecutor. She's not only a former prosecutor, she was the AG of the largest Department of Justice in the country other than the real Department of Justice. Prosecutors are not really leftists. They put people in jail for a living, okay? They're pretty moderate. I know the vice president personally. She is not, she's moderate. And I was talking to Alyssa about that. And then they want to attack her on her record. She is one of the most accomplished. Can I respond to that, or do you want
Yes. I think the point is that in 2020, she ran in a moment where she ran to the left. And if she had run the campaign...
Meaning what?
Meaning focusing on...
Like what? Give
so
an
one
example
was, this is the moment of George Floyd, the country's torn apart, and she put out...
She couldn't be the prosecutor then. She couldn't be
She put out a statement saying she wanted to bail out people who were protesting in streets. So people took that a certain way. They felt like she was running to in that primary, and someone like Biden when she's not doing that now. This is a centrist Democratic
message.
She's
leaning into who she really is, because if you got...
All right, so here we got old master slave owner Sunny Hostin. She always got something to say.
These biddies really get on my nerves. They really do. And I'm drinking wine too, so it's just, exacerbated. First of all, they believe this foolishness that they hear themselves say, because they really think most of the left, if not all of the left, believes that their ideology is the moderate stance in the country. It's not. So they don't see anything outside of the left. They're going to frame it as far right because they really believe that they are the centrists. They're not. That's number one. Number two, again, as we said earlier, govtracker.com or .org, whatever the site, rated her the most, they said the most liberal, but it's really the most leftist senator when she was in the Senate, okay? This is what I keep saying on my pages. I've been saying it for years, and I borrowed it from Dennis Prager. The right, we really need to understand the differences, or some of the differences between leftist and liberal, which is, again, one of the main differences is liberals are basically, they're colorblind. The left focuses on race. This is what Kamala Harris did. Her policies were based on race, releasing people based on race, not on the crimes that they did, not to mention that those criminals that were released, they go out and harm more so-called BIPOC people. So this is bullshit. They hear themselves talk, and they really, all they do is emote. They don't even think about their own consequences of the policies that they put forth.
That's something very important. Emote. They emote, they misinform, they do not live and deal in facts. And that's what we like to do on this show. And so we want to talk, you want to hear facts, we want to hear data. So let's hear it from the horse's mouth about what she thinks and feels and how her policies, if she's so moderate. Roll the clip, producer.
It has to be about a goal of saying everybody should end up in the same place. And since we didn't start in the same place, some folks might need more. Equitable distribution. Giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity, understanding not everyone starts out at the same place. So there's a big difference between equality and equity. Equality suggests often everybody should get the same thing. Well, that often assumes everybody started out in the same place, as opposed to equity, which is everyone should end up in the same place. And if you then understand not everybody started out in the same place, you understand some people need more. So we all end up in the same place. Right? We are proud of the fact that equity is one of our guiding principles. Proud of the fact that we understand equality is important, but not everybody starts out on the same base. We see that people in our country are having an experience that is not equal. So when we talk about the work we are doing here together, it is recognizing that and being guided by this principle of what we must do in the spirit and in the interest of equity. To put equity firmly at the center of our economic policy. But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit Black children, Black families, Black homeowners.
Folks, that is blood red communism. Blood red. She is menstrual. She is bleeding, hemorrhaging, blood red, big, clotted, menstrual communism.
I didn't even understand what she was talking about most half the time.
There it is. People, we're in danger. If this woman gets into the presidency, it will be awful. Not just because of her failed ideology and policies, but she and Democrats will feel they have a mandate to implement these policies at every level of society. They will divide us up and create so much division amongst American voters that we will be consumed with fear and hatred of one another and run to them for leadership and power. It's all by design. They create moral and social decay to facilitate the coming of a new world order. That's it. This is it, people. She said it. I don't know how much more you can change it. You can twist it, flop it. This is from the horse's mouth. Horse. This is the horse's mouth. Yada, what are your thoughts here?
Well, that's what I was talking about. She is channeling her dad, who is an economist, who is a Marxist. I'm sure her mom probably believes the same thing. This is who she is. This is who she is at the core. And she's a Marxist. She clearly speaks about it. And this idea of equity is so disgusting because it has been tried. It has been tried in the Soviet Union. We had equity where, quotas of who you can accept into university to a certain job position, that quotas, how many Jews could be allowed to get in. And because there were so many of them that were able to get in because they actually did really, really well in school. So they were not allowed to get in. And so they could bring in a bunch of people from the collective farms. The children of the collective farm workers, they have to get the opportunity. And so they have tried, this over and over. And what it does is that it doesn't really elevate the society. It makes it worse. Then people who are bright and genius are not getting the opportunities that they could have been getting. And you have, these nincompoops, people who are, have half of the brain running things in the country. And that's what happens. You have the Soviet Union that collapses eventually. If you put, these half-brain DEI candidates into any positions of power, it's going to be a collapse. And that's what's going to happen if people don't wake up.
Internet, the other countries are laughing at us.
Yeah.
Big Dog, thank you. Holla, my conservative queens. Been a while, I know, but this convention all but sold up a Trump win. He had them shook. Only one who asked meaningful questions with Harris Faulkner, was going to do couch, that he's talking about the National Black Journalist event. Jude, thank you so much. Says, this is why I've always loved Trump. He's no polished fake politician. He always says what's on his mind. Unfortunately, many dislike him for that same reason. You're right, but he says it no matter who it is.
Exactly.
Black, white, handicapped, illegal, legal.
Exactly.
He says it. You're right. This woman is dangerous. She's a communist. Kamala is a communist through and through. This is clip number 12 with her again speaking.
Trying to look, part of this movement, and it's not just a moment, it's a movement, standing on the shoulders of the movements before. Part of this has to be about changing the system, rehauling the system, upending the system. And so that piece of it, you're right. Under this Attorney General, I have no hope for it being implemented. But God willing, he will be out of that office shortly.
And then we need to have a requirement that that office do the right thing going forward.
So then if you're for overhauling, where do you stand on defund the police?
Look, right. So here's the thing. Defund the police. The issue behind it is that we need to reimagine how we are creating safety. And when you have many cities that have 1/3 of their entire city budget focused on policing, we know that is not the smart way and the best way or the right way to achieve safety. For too long, the status quo thinking has been you get more safety by putting more cops on the street. Well, that's wrong. Because, by the way, if you want to look at upper middle class suburban neighborhoods, they don't have that patrol car. They don't have those police walking those streets. But what they do have, they have well-funded schools. What they do have is home ownership, high home ownership rates. What they do have are thriving small businesses. What they do have is access to public health and mental health services. So this whole movement is about rightly saying, we need to take a look at these budgets and figure out whether it reflects the right priorities.
Bitch, please. That's number one. Number two, this is what I would have loved to have been on that call. How come they never ask us? Because I would have asked her, why don't you start with your own personal example? Get rid of your Secret Service protection detail and walk your ass through these streets of Chicago, LA, Baltimore, Philly. I would have asked her that. Let's take your example, follow the leader, and then maybe you can have some people who would really believe what you're saying and doing, because you would be showing by example. These people are, again, they want to defund the police, they want to release the criminals, and who are they going to hurt? Again, these same minority communities that they want to have unity in. She's full of it. I'm going to repeat the famous 13 words that she's really following in these footsteps. We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America, and Kamala Harris will continue that tradition.
Yeah, I mean, Yana, you heard what she said. You can't have home ownership. You can't have businesses within communities when you have high crime.
Right.
You know, in many of these places, such here in Baltimore, are run by the left, Democrats, for decades upon decades. They are run by Democrats who tax us out the yin-yang. And studies show that when you have high taxes, you have a less likelihood of having businesses come into these areas of home ownership, because nobody wants to pay the high taxes in these municipalities.
Right. And it's basic economics. Actually, Thomas Sowell wrote a whole book about it, explaining how it works exactly. Businesses open their businesses where they can profit. They're not going to open a business where they can get robbed and killed and, not make money, but actually lose money. Why would they open businesses there? So that's why, if there is such a neighborhood, I mean, the only thing to help it is more police, because then maybe some people might risk and try to open some businesses there, possibly. So that's the only way. I mean, otherwise they would have to pay for their own security. And also, when she said we need to reimagine how we create safety, is this what they did during that Trump rally where he got shot? They reimagined how they create safety.
Yeah,
that's what it looks like.
Absolutely,
and that's what you get when you reimagine something like that. And I mean, and she has all the security in the world. To in her life. It's ridiculous. It's disgusting, and it's total nonsense what she's saying. I mean, if she actually believes it, I mean, she's stupid. But I kind of feel like she doesn't believe it. She just has this ideology and she just keeps pushing it because that's what works for her.
They want to usher in the Great Reset. This is what it is. And right now we are at the part of the timeline when they push moral decay and total anarchy. Because if they do that, if they push us to divide us by the races, they push race baiting and racial strife, if they push, out of crime and things like that, then they believe the people will turn to them to overreact. So to instill a police state, instill, one world order, because that we believe will bring about safety and some type of normalcy. This is what they're doing. It's all by design. This is what it is. And we all have to call it for what it is and point it out and push back against it. If you look at the WEF, World Economic Forum, they have it all laid out right there in print.